When's the last time you saw this happen?
Right.
When's the last time?
Remember, that's what I said Wednesday. I was like, man, if Mark Cuban ends up losing out, like, I know he's going to have a lot to say because, you know, he's been one of the more outspoken owners when it comes to certain things, you know, throughout the NBA. I mean, but based on what I heard him say, I guess that was last night, was he was like, you know, it's over. Like, there's nothing for me to talk about. Like, you know, we're just going to have to start from scratch. Like, you know, but don't forget, we still have Dirk. We still were able to sign, what's his name, Wesley Johnson. Yep. We were still able to do this. He was like,
no, Wes Matthews.
Wes
Matthews.
Matthews. Yeah, while the signing would have been great, he was like, there's nothing that I can really say at this point, but it didn't happen, so we just got to move forward.
And,
you know,
when in doubt, call Zaza. That's what you do. When in doubt, go call Zaza Pachulia. Oh, and that's Darren happening.
Williams.
Yes.
Yeah, it already happened.
Darren Williams got bought out, and he's expected to sign a 2-year, $10 million deal with the Dallas Mavericks. This is happening. Yeah. And here's the funny thing. In 2012, that was the thing. Remember? Darren Williams he was toiling over Brooklyn or Dallas because, you know, everyone said Darren probably wants to go home. But then came the trade for Joe Johnson. And Darren Williams out of his own mouth said, you know, because they were able to secure Joe we got to go back and remember when all that Dwight Howard stuff was happening. What was the one team? Dwight kept saying, "I want to go to Brooklyn. I want to go to Brooklyn." Yeah. Right? He tried to force his way to Brooklyn. Right. It wasn't able to happen. He ended up in L.A. and he tried to go to Brooklyn via L.A. But then the money situation wasn't going to really work out. And the Brooklyn Nets moved on. They was like, well, we got to get another star in here of some caliber to make sure we secure Darren Williams. And that star became Joe Johnson. And this is not me making this up. Again, Darren Williams said it out of his own mouth. When the Brooklyn Nets secured Joe Johnson's services, that convinced him to go back. Now, he's probably having a little buyer's remorse.
Well, not to mention they brought in Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett, too. So
that was the following year, wasn't it?
But it was all a part of that. Let's try to make because originally with the Joe Johnson, it was that they were making an effort to move forward. They were making an effort to become a playoff team, a viable team.
And they had already signed. They already gotten Lopez's service. Oh no, Lopez was supposed to be in the deal for Dwight Howard. And then they were like, no, we're not going to do that. That's when everything else got set into motion. So here's the thing. And then the problem for Dallas, for those of you who want to go back to the Mark Cuban statements of, we were going to have to tank. Here's the problem with that. You traded for Rajon Rondo. What you traded was a first-round pick with a cap on the 7th pick. So if you don't tank enough, if you're the Mavericks, and you mess around with an 8th pick, it ain't even yours. It belongs to the Celtics. Yeah, so you got to be bad enough to just keep your own pick next year. You got to get 7 on down.
Ain't that something?
Yeah, that's hard. That's a hard thing to do. I mean, I don't know. You're in the West, but still, there's going to be some of the other bad teams in the East. It's going to be hard. So Mark Cuban has found himself, in a bit of a pickle. Yeah, he's in a bit of a pickle. But it is what it is. All this stuff about, is Deandre Jordan a villain or is he this? Again, that's that old ESPN crap because you got to have a good guy and a bad guy in every situation. Nah, you know what he is? He's a businessman and figured out that he was going to do his best business in L.A. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, me and you have had that conversation like numerous times about these professional athletes being their own corporation. And at some point, you got to make the best move for your corporation, being you. And I think for Deandre, he, initially, that whole, we're going to make you the focal point of the offense, it sounded real good, right? It sounded real good. Until you looked around and was like, but what kind of chance do we really have to win if that's what he's interested in? And
I forget who made this point, but it may have been like Jason Whitlock or somebody that made this point. I always try to give people credit and not steal their points, but he was like, look who's making the damn promise. It's Mark Cuban when he started coaching.
Right.
Yeah, Rick Carlisle's the coach.
Right.
So he could tell DeAndre Jordan what the hell he wants to. All this, you're going to be like Shaq here. Yeah, sure you are.
Yeah, the Shaq. Yeah, that's what we did talk about.
Yeah, sure you are. Until the game starts. You know what I mean? And once someone can sit down and explain that, like someone sits down, if you're Doc Rivers and say, come on, DeAndre, Think about that. Is that really something that you think is viable? And if he starts thinking about it, plus we're gonna throw $8 million on top of what they're paying you, and you're gonna be in LA. So yeah, you know, I don't have no. I mean, I've heard a lot of things about the Dallas metropolitan area, a lot of great things about the Dallas metropolitan area. To be honest with you.
Oh yeah, it's awesome. That's what my brother-in-law and sister-in-law. That's where they live, and they love it out there, man.
Right, and as far as I'm not knowing what it is, I know what it ain't. It ain't LA. You know what I mean? I know exactly what. I don't know exactly what it is. I just know what it ain't. So it's all about personal preference, and this whole deal about he didn't even call Mark Cuban. So what do you owe him?
No, let's stop. Let's go to Chris Broussard's report then. Mark Cuban was riding around. Was riding around Houston.
Let me get to this part first. Yeah, let's kind of go. Let's go back and forth. Let's talk. I'm gonna read you guys the letter that Mark Cuban inked today on his social media site. What is it called? Cyberdust. He says, "Dear Mavs fans, after all the nonsense coming from an ESPN employee on Twitter, I thought I would provide the events of the day on Tuesday, not Wednesday. Signing day was Thursday. He's talking about Tuesday. Through all of Monday, we were texting back and forth, meaning he and Deandre, discussing players available, the amount of cap room we had left, who our staff liked, who he liked, how excited he was. Then on Tuesday, the communications in English basically stopped, and we started hearing rumblings from multiple people that something was up. So I flew down to Houston and got a room at the Galleria, which is just a few minutes from his house. I had my driver take me to his house. It's inside a small gated community, but the gate was wide open. So we drove in, and I literally walked up to his door. There was no one home, so I texted him saying I was there. I know something's up. Let's talk. He texted me that he was on a date. I told him to have fun. I wasn't in a rush, that I was happy to come by there and say hi if he wanted to make the date fun. Take them to Dallas for a night out.
He wanted to be the third wheel. He wanted to be the third wheel.
Appropriately, he didn't respond. After about 10 minutes, I went back to the hotel. I wasn't going to sit in front of the house. I didn't think that was right. When I got back to the hotel, I texted him that I wasn't in front of his house. Have fun on his date, and we will talk. He hit me back immediately saying thanks. He knew I was in town. He knew I was close by. I knew something was up. I was getting the same reports everyone else was. I also knew his agents were coming to town. It made sense that he would talk to them, and worst case, even if he was having second thoughts, the agent would be able to give me updates. Like any big career move, it's natural to have second thoughts. So while I was concerned, I still wasn't worried. So I went to bed. More to come. So yeah, now we'll start here and move backwards. The first thing he mentions is nonsense coming from an ESPN employee. Oops, sorry, dude. That ESPN employee, one Chris Broussard. Chris Broussard made the show the other day as well for a little Twitter beef he had with Bomani Jones. Seems like
the hottest Chris Broussard been in a long time, dude.
Yeah, seems like he's on a little bit of a tear here.
Yeah.
Let me try to find this real quick. The actual Chris Broussard comments and the tweets that he made. Basically, he accused Mark Cuban of driving around town all night, texting and trying to get in touch with Deandre Jordan's family in order to find Deandre Jordan's house. Okay, first of all, this dude is the owner of an NBA team. He's the owner. Even if you can believe before now he didn't know DeAndre's address, yeah, I'm very sure. I'm more than sure about this, that he has resources enough to get his address without texting everyone he can possibly find. Like, DeAndre didn't move in last week. He's had the house. He lives in Houston. So this is not something like, man, DeAndre just moved and he ain't provide no forwarding address. Yeah.
Right. I mean, dude, like for real. Like, I remember when T.O. moved out here by us, right? Over in Sandstone, the States. Dude, I knew right where T.O. stayed, and so did everybody else. It wasn't no secret. You know, when these athletes move to these neighborhoods, there ain't no secret. I mean, but, you know, I'm definitely sure Mark Cuban knew where Deandre Jordan lived. Like, I'm more than sure about that.
So
he did. He knew.
The article is called. This is a Deadspin article, which a lot of people rag on Deadspin. I like Deadspin because it's really most of it is upfront, very opinionated, and they curse. Those three things I enjoy.
Awesome.
Mark Cuban calls ESPN dip crap, but not crap, the other word. Chris Broussard's reporting ridiculous, quote unquote ridiculous. Excuse me. So Chris Broussard, he hits his Twitter again. He gets his Twitter muscles on. So of course he's that guy. As of right now, Deandre Jordan is returning to the Clippers, according to a source present at this afternoon's meeting with the Clippers. By the way, he's at Chris_Broussard. That's Broussard with 2 S's. He goes on to say, sources, Cuban is beside himself, driving around downtown Dallas, begging through text.
Houston, right, Houston.
No. He says Dallas, begging in quotation marks through text Jordan's family for address to DeAndre's home. Now he comes back. Correction. Sources, Cuban beside himself driving around downtown Houston, in all caps, begging through text Jordan's family for address to DeAndre's home. He keeps on going. Wait. Oh, no. Cuban responds, driving around Houston, that's ridiculous. I was in my hotel all day yesterday. Then he goes on, Mark Cuban says again, that's the dumbest S I've ever heard. If you had any ethics, you would message me and I will give you his address. Here comes Broussard. He's at M Cuban is what he's tweeting at Mark Cuban. If you had the address last night, you would have gone to the house. I stand by my multiple sources who had you calling and texting them. He says, you didn't fly to Houston to text all night, did you? ? Yeah, here's the thing. I'm gonna say, like a couple years ago, not many, but a couple years ago, I was talking about this guy to somebody who is kind of in
Chris Broussard?
Yeah, I was talking about Chris Broussard. And I was like, This dude, he comes off like a hack to me. Like, no one ever pays attention to all the things that he says are going to happen and never happen. Like,
never.
He sandwiches them in between like some right stuff. But then there's a bunch of wrong things in between it.
LeBron James, from what I'm hearing from my sources, is going to the New York Knicks.
Right.
LeBron James is going to the
and no one says anything. And I told the person I was talking to, I was like, man, I think this dude be making stuff up. Like, he be on some stuff where he don't want to get left behind, so he just started making stuff up. And after he realized he wasn't going to get questioned about it, he just kept doing it. And this stuff, Mark Cuban today said, I will give $100,000 to the charity of your choice if you present the evidence that shows that people text you telling you that I was right. So now it ain't even a situation like I'll give you $1,000 because if you do that to another grown man, like, I don't need your damn money. Now he's saying no, it's for charity.
Yeah.
So you Mr. Almighty, so Christian dude, you want to do something good for charity, don't you? Present the evidence. You ain't got to present no names.
No, but you already
hack,
know
dude.
I'm holding on to my sources. I'm holding on to
you can still hold on to your sources. This is the information. Like, you can redact telephone numbers when you prove something.
Don't be that. Yeah, he talked to somebody like Dean Reed.
Yeah, he probably didn't talk to anybody, man. I think I'm gonna stick by what I said a couple years ago. This dude, I feel like this dude be making stuff up, man. And now he's starting to get called out on his crap.
Because because you talked about it a couple weeks ago, and it wasn't even about Broussard, but you were talking about the fact that the ESPN insiders, they all like being scooped by other people, and I think that whole thing with him supposedly, being an NBA insider, there are a lot of times that that when things happen, they don't go to Chris Broussard.
He gets scooped by his own coworkers.
Yeah, and it's like while we talk a lot of crap about dudes like Stephen A. Smith, who, by the way, I read an article the other day. I didn't know he was a Q, but the other day I read an article about him, and the author of the article misspelled his name throughout the whole article. Spelled it with a V, like the whole article.
Good for him.
Like, well, damn.
Good for that dude.
Yeah.
That's kind of ridiculous.